Welcome to SolidCAM Professor. I'm Sydney, your SolidCAM Professor, with one of many videos available to you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. In this recording, we'll show you all the options that we have inside our technology option of Modify. Now, what I'd like to do for this is actually mill out around this wall over here. So we'll start a new operation at this point of Profile. I'll choose my geometry being the one around this wall over here. I'll choose my end mill. In this particular case, I'll use my 25 millimeter end mill. I have my levels of my upper level being on top and my profile depth being up until that step over there. Now let's go into our technology. In our technology, we have our area called Modify. As you see, we're working on the left side. If I click on the geometry button and take a look from the top, you can see that we're working on the left side of the geometry itself. Over here, I can also change it to right or center. Obviously, in this particular case, I want to work on left. Now, note the start point of this particular chain. It's starting its actual work from this point over here. I'd like to shift the point to a different area. For example, I'd like to have it go at this point or start over here. For that, we have our start position. In start position, we have our default, which is where it is at now, and then we have shift. When I click on shift, it automatically goes to a 0 point, as shown over here. Or if I want, I can actually click inside this window over here and then click on any point of the geometry itself where I want to start. Say over here, just click on it and the start point will move to over there. Now, one other option that's important is as follows. Say this geometry as shown over here has to be moved out a certain amount. We need an offset from it. For example, there's a tolerance given on the blueprint that came with the part, giving it a one direction tolerance of 0.2 millimeters and -0. What I can do in this particular case is do the following. We have Modify Offset. By clicking on Modify Offset, I can put in a different value over here, say 0.1 millimeters, and you'll note as I zoomed in, the actual geometry is over here, but it has been modified to work out 0.1 millimeters, as shown over here. So my finished cut will be according to this. If I put in the value of -0.1, it'll go in the opposite direction. Let's put it back at 0, where it originally was, and then let's run our simulation. If we take a look now at our simulation, you'll see that our tool will go in from this edge over here and machine around from that point. Now let's go back to Modify Geometry, and we see we have another option here called Extension, Start and End. To show exactly how this works, we'll use a different geometry, and for that I like to mill in the middle of this part where we have this area over here. So I'll create a new 2.5D operation of Profile. I'll choose my geometry being this edge over here, and then this edge as shown over here. The tool I'm going to be using over here is a 12 millimeter end mill. The levels, we have our upper level as shown over here, and we have our profile depth up until this point over there. Now let's go into our technology and use the option of Modify Geometry and take a look from the top. We can see our start point on each one of these and the end point on each one of these. If I want, I can actually do an extension immediately right here. Say I want to extend it, say by 10 millimeters, I'll just write 10 millimeters and it will go out by 10 millimeters. If I want the start point on both of them to go out 10 millimeters, all I have to do is click on Apply to All Open Chains. Before I do that, however, I like to have it done at the end as well. So I'll do this also 10 millimeters. And now click apply to all open chains, and you'll see it'll happen to the other one as well. Now, staying on this geometry over here, I'd like to show another option that we have in modify offset. Note we have two chains over here, the first one and the second one, creating this geometry. What I would like to do in this particular case, I'd like to have the end mill go down the exact middle of this part, needing only one chain, and then finishing off by going off one end and then on the other end. So for that, we can do as follows. One, I'd like to use only one chain. So I'll use only one chain as shown over here. Next, I'd like to move this onto the middle of the geometry. So I'll say, let's use center as shown over here. Next, however, I'd like to move this chain to the middle of the part itself. For that, we have modify offset, but this time I'm going to tell it, take half from the selected offset. Now what I can do in this particular case is just highlight this window as shown over here and just click on the edge, which is the opposite edge. And because I chose take half the selected offset, it'll move half the distance between the two edges, putting it exactly in the middle. So if we take a look at the simulation, you see that the tool will now go down exactly in the middle and do that one pass right through the middle of that slot. Now for my next operation, I would like to use the exact same geometry, but this time using both edges of the geometry itself, both parts of the chain. So I'll just do save and copy, using the exact same tool, the exact same geometry, but this time when I go into my technology, I'll go into my modify geometry option, put back the second chain, and get rid of the offset, put it back at 0, and apply that to all as well. In addition, I'll also change this back to left. Now if I take a look at my geometry, you'll see that the tool in this particular case will now go on one end, finishing off, and then going back on the other end as shown over here. Now the last option I'd like to show you in modify geometry is using the extension but in the negative value. What I'd like to do is as follows. I'd like to actually put a chamfer on this edge over here and on this edge over here. Now if I use this entire chain, the tool will obviously eat away at this corner. So let's see how I deal with this. We'll start a new operation of profile. I'll choose my geometry, this being one chain over there, and the flip side over there being my second chain. The tool that I will be using will be a 4 millimeter chamfer drill. And my levels, we have our upper level at this floor over here, and we have our profile depth, which is the actual size of the chamfer, and I'll have it at 0.5 millimeters. Now let's go into our technology. First, we'll go into our rest material chamfer and use the option of chamfer. And in the option of chamfer, I'll have the cutting diameter at 2 millimeters. Now, in our links, we'll have our lead in from normal, so it goes straight into the corners, and I'll have the same for my lead out. Now let's go back to our technology and we'll deal with the option of modify geometry. If we go to modify geometry and take a look from the top, you'll see that our tool is going to be going from here up until this point, and the same thing on the flip side as well. What I'd like to do is actually take the tool and move it further in over here so it doesn't hit the corner, and the same thing with the end. So what I'll do is I'll have my start extensions change to -2, and the same thing with my end of -2. Now since I want to do it on both of these edges, I'll just click on apply to all open chains, and you can see it's been done to both of them. Now let's run our simulation. And as you can see now, the tool will go down, go into the corner over there, getting the maximum amount that it can get into without going into the corner itself, and then do the same on the flip side over there without touching the corner at all. For more videos on SolidCam Professor, please go to our website www.solidcam.com and look for the tab called SolidCam Professor. Thank you for joining us on SolidCam Professor. Take care and have a nice day.